Good day everyone, I'm Wookiee Monster, and this is the second part in our series going over ancient cities. On the first series, we kind of went over how to start the game, how ancient cities came to be, and how to find their website and their Discord, which again, I'll link below. But in this video, we're actually going to start building our huts and going over how to kind of do that. First, I want to go over the typical UI that you're going to see. This is obviously your tribe name and their little logo. If you go over it, it just kind of highlights just little knickknacks about that. This is the starting year. We did start in 10,000 BC, but by default it goes back to 9,999 BC. I'm assuming it just doesn't have the capability of having 5 numbers there. Here we did decide to pick spring to give us a little bit of a chance to survive, since the farther back you go, the more difficult it is to survive. In spring, in a later video, we'll discuss that there's different elements that pop up that you won't normally see in autumn or winter, and vice versa. Here you'll also see a time lapse of the actual time and day in the game. It does make a difference depending on how far you travel with your tribe, like we did in the last video, to settle. So it's actually becoming night. We won't see a lot of stuff going on during the day. Here are the typical time lapse things that we have utilized already. We have the pause, the normal play, and then the fast forward features. This one here, I like clicking on default, skip nights. Your workers do not work during the night. Even if you try to have them work most of the day, they will automatically sleep at night. And there's no point in really not skipping this, especially in the early access. This is just the temperature gauge. If you know how to read Celsius, good for you. I don't, but I know this is freezing. So kind of important to keep in mind, because that will dictate how grumpy your villagers are if you don't have a fire or any housing. Here's another feature for you. So if you click this map toggle, you can actually see inside the land and outside the land, kind of dictate where you want to move, where you may want to migrate to. I kind of picked an area that was surrounded by water, so we'll always have fish all year round. So it'd be pretty easy for us to migrate if I needed to, but I think we're in a pretty good location. Now, first what I'm going to go over is groups here. So with groups, you start out with no work groups. What you have to do is click this plus symbol. Now we have 3 group options to pick from. First, I'm going to want a crafting group. This crafting group is going to be the group I'm going to use to build all my buildings. Any group can build that, but I think this is kind of easier to do. We're definitely going to want straw huts, so let's build a couple of them. When you first start out, you always have 16 villagers, including children, so you're going to need at least 3 of these straw huts to hold all your villagers in. The reason I picked this straw hut is it gives us the most sleeping capabilities, and your villagers by default are always going to go to the one with the highest rating. This small straw hut isn't too bad if you're kind of lacking in the sticks area and the hay area. This might be a good option, but keep in mind it does have a lower sleep rating just by 5 and can only sleep 3. It is cheaper in the sense that you use 5 less sticks and you can build 2 of these, but again, this has a better sleep rating, so kind of pick and choose what's more beneficial for you. The pelt hut isn't bad, especially if you plan on being a nomadic tribe, but the sleep rating is dramatically lower compared to the other 2 straw huts. It does require a little bit more resources in the sense that you have to build fine sticks, which takes quite a few of these. It requires pelt or raw hides. In this game, you start out with 9 raw hides if we go back to our basic storage here. Raw hides are gained from animals and are useful because you can tan them and everything, but right now in the early access there's no animals in the game, and so 9 raw hides is all you're going to get. Just from my perspective, it's better to not build those huts. It's not beneficial at all to have a nomadic tribe at the moment, so I recommend staying far away. So here, let's go to the plus sign again. So now that we have our buildings, these 3 buildings here, we're going to want to set up a fire. So if we go here to the services, we're going to want a fireplace. It provides rest and sleep for your tribe to kind of sit around. It's better than just sleeping on the ground, which is what they're going to have to do tonight, unfortunately. But as you're going to see later on in the video, your tribe members do not like sleeping unless they have a house, so they are going to be pretty dang grumpy. Another thing we're going to set up, which is pretty automatic, is we're going to go here to our storage. Now there's different things. There's basket, haystack, pit, and just a basic storage area. We're going to build a basic storage area, but let me kind of go over everything here. Now, a basket holds a bunch of food, and it's typically one type of food in each basket. Now, as you can see here, it takes reed, and reed is usually found on riverbanks. We're not near a river, and unfortunately, you would definitely see what reed looks like. And in another video, I'll go over what exactly it looks like when I pick an area that's good for that. So for now, we're not going to build a basket just because we can't. Haystacks are good for storage, but they do take up resources that storage areas typically don't. Now, a pit's really good as well. It holds a lot of vegetal foods, which are going to be things like mushrooms, clams, berries, and different things like that. They do not hold fish though, so keep that in mind, especially if you're building near an area like this. So for now, let's build a couple storage areas. Keep in mind that your villagers do have to walk to and from these storage areas, especially near their camps if they want to cook anything. So the farther you put storage areas, the longer it's going to take them to build things and to walk. So for this one, we're going to build a storage area here. What's cool is that there's this lasso tool. I can kind of dictate the size, but also it depends on the areas in the terrain. If you're not sure about the terrain, you could also just set up a map like this and you can see where everything is at. It's actually pretty nice. So here we're going to click on the storage area. The storage area is a pretty difficult subject to kind of go over. So for this, during this video, I'm not going to be going over that. I'm just going to build a couple storage areas and then kind of just show you how to build everything. And then in the next video, we'll go over the storage area and how to really maximize the benefit with this. So for now, we're just going to click off this and we're going to go right back to the building. I do want a couple pits, and I'm going to put these pits over here. I'm going to build 2. I want them close enough to the water so the clams can get there really quickly. Production is another really good item to have, and I really want this close to the beach. Dryers help dry out the food, and right now in the early access stage, fish are the only things that can be dried. And so for them to last a long time, I want 2 dryers to be utilized, because fish don't last very long by themselves. Let's go back to the building. Now I'm going to go through each one just to kind of show you what each thing does. We already went through here. We went through production. We went through the services. Now defenses is another good thing, but they're not really utilized right now because there's no animals that could attack and there's no really foreign tribes. So unless you get really far into the game and you just want to experiment with this, I don't recommend starting this out. This isn't high priority. Nothing is going to attack your villagers at this time. Religion is another good thing. It helps build the morale of your tribe. It does take a lot of stone, so if you're not in a heavy area with a lot of stone, I don't recommend building this because all your items here do need regular maintenance to keep them up, and the fire actually requires a lot of these raw stones. Now this tab here, this is specifically just for decoration. They do absolutely nothing, but they just make your little tribe look beautiful. It says here the well provides fresh water. Again, keep in mind, this here says useful for nothing. So if you take the time to build these, your villagers aren't actually going to use any of this, at least not at this moment. So don't build this unless you have a lot of those resources. Let's go back to the working groups. So let's say craftsman's a little too vague for you in regards to naming. If you go up here, you can actually click and change the name. I'm going to change the name to builders. That way I kind of know exactly what they're going to be doing. This might seem pretty obvious in regards to, yeah, okay, they're building everything. But when you start getting to the other groups here, it's going to get a little more intense. But we'll go over that in another video. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I hope to see you for part 3 when we go over the groups and the storage areas. Thank you.